G'day Regular Radio regulars, I'm in the studio with one of our previously played bands. These guys were on our June podcast and they are our very first band or artist to be played twice on Regular Radio. All the way from Brisbane, a very regular welcome to Dylan from KB Theory.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey man, how you going?
I'm fantastic, how are you?
Wonderful, thank you very much for coming down to the studio. As always, a pleasure, and of course, we've played you guys before, so it's pretty cool to have someone here that we've already played, and we're going to play a new track from you.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't realise we were like one of the first to be played twice on Regular Radio.
The first to be de-virginized.
Oh, I love it, look at that.
That's the wonder of the English language. You can make anything sound ridiculous.
You can.
Alright, so look, you're the lead singer and I guess lead guitarist from the band, is that correct?
Yeah, somewhat. Rhythm guitarist and lead singer, so...
Alright, no,
that one.
Harry, who was supposed to be here today, but he's decided to sleep in, that son of a bitch. I had this whole script worked out that included Harry, and now he's not included. So
I'll answer all his questions
for Harry.
him. I'll answer all his questions.
Wonderful. So I'm going to read it as if Harry's here, and we'll just do it that way. Harry. He's got higher testicles than I thought he would.
He does. He's a small boy.
Right, so you are the two guitarists. Dylan, you're the vocalist. Was the decision to bring Harry along, which is obviously Harry's not fucking here, so it's just you. Was the decision to bring Harry along over the bass player Campbell or drummer Andrew an easy one to make?
I think it was more that Campbell is currently flying to Melbourne, so he's just out of it. He's flying to Melbourne for some work. Harry was the first person to say yes, so out of both Andy and Harry just said yes first, so I guess we were taking him with us. But knowing now that was asleep, probably would have been handy to have that second opinion to take Andy down here.
Thank you very much, Harry, if you're listening, for fucking up the interview already.
You've thrown me under the bus, Harry.
Yeah, if you're a guitarist and you're looking for a new band, KB Theory might be looking for a new lead guitarist shortly. So we'll get some information at the end about that. So anyway, you guys mention the 1975, The Strokes, and Last Dinosaurs as some of the main influences to you and your music. What is it about these particular three bands that gets you musically aroused?
So, with The Strokes, I know personally our bass player Cam, he's a huge fan of those guys. Like, he's been listening to them forever, and he just loves like the really catchy like guitar riffs that they come up with. Like, they've got some really interesting way of making the guitar licks that I wouldn't think of, that generic bands wouldn't think of, that we try to incorporate, maybe not so much in the older stuff that I wrote, but the new stuff that we're working on, coming up with those more creative guitar lines that the Strokes really have. Last Dinosaurs, they're just catchy, and we enjoy their music. We try to go for that catchy side of things that those guys really have. And personally for me, I really love the 1975. All of us in the band really love that band. We want to try and incorporate like a lot of the synths and the underlying cool guitar tones that like really make the 1975 what they are.
Yep. So do you guys have a synth player at the moment?
We don't. We would love to get one. We're trying to like work our way towards there. When we start recording our next, I don't know, album or EP, whatever we want to call it, later down the track next year, we'll try and invest in all that stuff. But for the minute, we're just happy being a 4-piece band, just playing, live music without that. But we try to put it in our songs for later. No,
that's awesome. I mean, the beauty of song production in modern day times is you can sort of throw that stuff in, and
you can.
Don't necessarily
the Roland SPX exists. The sample pad with the backing track, functionality. Like,
cheap
you don't
musician,
need a synth player.
You don't have to split an extra paycheck his way. Like,
pretty much.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic.
We're definitely going to get one of those later. Make our job a lot easier.
I'm thinking maybe one to replace the guitarist might help as well. Just sticking with that theme of funniness. I guess a question you'd probably get asked a lot. I mean, I would think you would, but again, I'm not too sure. But what does the band name mean? What is KB Theory?
So KB stands for Kevin Bacon Theory. So without any explanation, that doesn't make sense. But when coming up with the band name, we went through a lot before we stuck to KB Theory, because we originally started with like, the 1%, and people were like, that's a bikie gang. We're like, all right, we can't have that one. And then we went to 6 Degrees of Separation, and that was cool, but like 14 other bands have that band name. We're like, all right, well, that doesn't work, does it? So we were messing around, and I said Chaos Theory, and my uncle was like, did you say like KS Theory? And I was like, well, KS, what can we make out of that? So I was like, nothing really stands for like KS. And then my dad was like, you know how you wanted to be like the 6 Degrees of Separation? Like Kevin Bacon, like he was the one that invented the whole like 6 Degrees of Separation, where I worked with this person who worked with this person who worked with this person who worked with this person who's knows the Queen. So by default, I know the Queen. And I was like, that's pretty cool, like KB Theory. So, you know, Dad was the one that kind of like kicked that name choice in front of us, and we were like, you know what, let's roll with that. We like that Kevin Bacon Theory. It's interesting. It's a good story.
When I thought of that question, I did not fucking expect that answer.
Oh yeah, no, it's very calculated.
As an avid Kevin Bacon fan and Bacon fan in general, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, like there's people like, KB Theory probably just stands for literally nothing, like Korean barbecue theory or something. Like there's probably nothing interesting behind that name, but there's like a whole story behind it, and it gets people asking. So, you know, people see our band name and they want to know what it means.
That's
it gets them thinking about us, which is good.
I was thinking it was going to be something very serious, and there's going to be some like elemental letters used in there, or mathematical equations.
The KB Theory is like a very theoretical science. I forgot what part of the actual science thing it is, but there's a KB Theory that's very technical in there, and I have no idea what it is. It's some molecular thing, but yeah, no, the Kevin Bacon one works for me. I can understand that.
And I'm pretty sure it hasn't been done. I don't think there would be another band, the Kevin Bacon Theory.
I could not imagine that anyone else in the world would be called Kevin Bacon Theory.
No, it'd be pretty bad luck. So anyway, look, next question, because we're going on a lot about Kevin Bacon, more than I thought we were going to. From the small amount of Facebook stalking I did this morning, I managed to track down 3 singles to the KB Theory franchise. First was Lights of Tokyo, which was your guys' debut track, of course.
Yep.
Journey, we played back in June, so that was on our last podcast. Was it? Yes, last podcast. And Hope, that we'll be playing shortly. Obviously, you've got some more cats in the bag, and people aren't going to be showing up to venues for a 3-song gig. What else have you got to share?
We got like 45-minute sets, so if anyone that rolls up to our gigs and is expecting, 3 songs, sorely mistaken, fellas.
We've got short but sweet.
We've got a lot of songs that we play pretty regularly around. For the last couple of months, we've been playing pretty regularly, like 45-minute sets. A little while ago, we played the Tenerife Festival. That was awesome.
Oh, cool.
Big stage was really cool. We released Hope, like a month ago in July at the Haya Bar. That was really fun. Those kind of sets with all our songs are really awesome. We switched up the set specifically for releasing Hope, so that it wasn't the same as all the the sets that we've done before. So anyone that has been coming or is new, there's going to be something for you, because the set is now different.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, obviously you just mentioned the Haya Bar, and you guys are from Brisbane. Now, having played in the Valley myself a number of years ago now, I haven't been there in a while. There's all these new fantastic venues that have popped up. Haya Bar, one of them, I think Tomcat.
Tomcat's awesome.
What else? You're playing at the Flying Cock.
Yeah, Flying
eventually.
Cock.
I'd love to say that, the Flying Cock. I don't know why.
I can't imagine why.
No, it doesn't sound hilarious at all, and I'm not immature in any way. So just reading that, that's where you're going to be releasing Hope as your release show.
Yeah, so
in August, so that looks pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of your new track, you have the release show coming up, which is in August. Can you tell us a little bit more about that show? That's at the Flying Cock, obviously. What's going down there? You obviously just said you've changed the setup. Things are going to be a bit different. Have you got any support acts? What's going on?
Off the top of my head, I believe that we're playing with Foxy Moron, who are an awesome band. love those guys. I've seen them play a number of times, and I love it every time. The Flying Cock's a bit of an interesting venue because it's in like this back room that no one really like knows exists outside of the people that actually go there for music. And it's like super big, but the only bands that play there are small bands, so it's like really hard to get it to look like a crowded room of people that are genuinely interested in what you're doing.
Yeah,
like the
I
people
find
that are
that's
there,
like
they kind of just
the,
stand around the semicircle.
The Black Bear Lodge, like it's a great venue, but so tight, so small that people turn up and they're like, where do we stand?
Pretty much. We played the a little while ago for Rare Finds, and it's like a big room when no one's there, but when people are in it, it looks small, which is good. It not only does the venue sound fantastic and have awesome gear, but it really makes the crowd look like that you have a crowd, and it really forces people in there to come together and listen to the show instead of being able to like stand off to the side.
Which is always good. I mean, for live music especially, we're always fighting to keep live music alive. Live music alive. In Queensland and in Australia in general, I know there's a lot of talk within the industry about how things have sort of declined over recent years with lockout laws and all those sorts of things happening. Pokies back in the 80s. The live music's been not struggling, but falling by the wayside. People's attention spans, they can get Netflix at home. Why would you want to go out and spend $10 to see a band you might not like? So
yeah,
you sort of understand that public view. And I mean, I remember in the Valley, there was a few bars. I don't even know if they're still in existence. Rick's Bar, I know, still is.
Still
that's a good little venue. And the old X and Y Bar, I don't think is there anymore.
I don't remember. I haven't seen it for a little bit.
The X and Y used to be just around the corner from Rick's, up the hill a little bit, opposite the Mammoth. And it was a great little venue, but it was much bigger than Black Bear. So we had, I remember, like 2 people turn up to this gig, and I think one of them was like the bar guy that had finished work and was standing there. So when you talk about like small venues like the Black Bear and Flying Cock and that sort of thing, it's great that those sort of intimate spaces are available where if you haven't got a crew of 500 turn up, it still feels like you've got a good amount of people there. And I guess there's a bit of, how would you put it, trend to those sorts of venues as well. So where you get a lot of people go out looking for craft beers and craft whiskies, you're not just going to a pub anymore and seeing a band. So the venues are changing, and I think the bands are changing as well, which is cool to see you guys doing those sorts of gigs where you've got a sort of intimate venue and getting people there. Because, I mean, there's no point in playing a 2,500 capacity venue where you've only got 5 people show up.
So you got to really pick where you want to be. Like, obviously there's that part of you that's like, I want to play the Foundry because it holds 200 people and it sounds fantastic. But then when you don't get that amount of people show up, it really does look bad on you. And it kind of ruins the whole event for you because you're like,
exactly.
People standing all the way down the back.
I know with those gigs where I've had sort of 2 people there, I treat it as a rehearsal. And
it's a glorified rehearsal.
Played before because no one's listening anyway. The chef and the manager and the pub are usually the only ones that are like, what's going on? We just sort of fly through. But then it goes the other way, whereas I remember playing the Beer Garden in Surfers Paradise on the coast. Australia Day, I think that was about 2012, something like that. And we were packed out. There was probably, I think, around 2,000 in there. And that was a big venue. And we had sort of our band that was headlining. And the band that was before us obviously hadn't played those big venues and were not really suited to the pub crowd. And they were met with cans flying at their heads.
What genre were they?
Good question. I think they were like electro funk. Something like that.
It's pretty good. I'm down for that.
I wouldn't want to mention the band because, I mean, it was pretty sad. They ended up smashing the guitars and drums in hate. I think one guy just cracked it at the other guy. And he had some really expensive guitars. And from memory, I think he had a Kramer, a Fender, and a Gibson. And he smashed all 3 of them on stage because he was super pissed that he was getting cans thrown at his head, which is fair enough. I'd get angry at that too. But instead of taking it like a man, telling people to get fucked, he thought, I'll smash my $3,000 guitars instead. So he did that. Then the drummer cracked the shits and went, nah, screw this. I don't want to be part of this if this is where we're going. So they kind of walked off, and then we walked on stage like, shit, we've got to bring this crowd back. And thankfully we were like hard rock, and it was a pub, and it was Australia Day.
Pubbers love that hard rock.
People fucking loved it, and it went down a tree.
I mean, Australia Day would be a hard gig to really get get on, because that's the one day where every Australian just drinks really hard in those pub crowds.
Yeah, that's it. It's
if
like
you don't
St.
meet their
Patrick's Day for the
expectations, they will destroy you.
Yep, and look, it worked out pretty well. Thankfully, I didn't get any cancer out of my head, so that was a win.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, having been together for a couple of years now, you guys have been on tour, maybe? I'm not sure. Do you have any plans to tour?
We want to tour sometime around September.
Yep.
We're going to try for it. We don't know if it's going to happen, what the plan is, but, you know, it's on the books. We're thinking about it. Like, if it works out that way where, you know, after Big Sound, like that, when that whole area of stuff is done,
yep,
and, you know, we can take that around all, you know, up the coast and down the coast, that kind of stuff, we'd be more than happy to do that. But for the minute, there's no hard plans, but we're thinking about it.
Okay. So at the moment, obviously having not toured yet, you're looking at touring. What are your favourite venues to play at the moment, you know, aside from Black Bear and Flying Cock and that sort of thing? Yeah,
so personally, Black Bear is one of my favourite, because every time we go there, it just, not to bad talk any of the other venues, but it really puts all the other venues to shame sound-wise.
Yeah.
Just because of how expensive the gear is. Yeah. And that's nothing on the other venues.
It's important. I mean, if you're
basically
operating
just,
a venue,
it sounds really good. You're able to hear your vocals so clearly.
Yep.
And being someone that really does need to hear my vocals, otherwise I'll strain my voice. I hate having to do that, because the amount of times I've lost my voice from playing gigs because I cannot hear myself and I've had to yell it.
There's nothing more
it's terrible.
Frustrating than the sound guy that you're asking to turn stuff out. And he pushes the BS button and he hasn't actually turned anything up. You're like, mate.
And not only that, we have Andrew, who does harmonies to pretty much all of the choruses and some of the verses in our songs. Yep. If he can't hear me, that makes it hard. And if, you know, I can't sort of hear him, it makes harmonizing a little bit difficult. So, you know, and as well as that, if I can't hear my guitar, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I have a pretty extensive pedal board, and half the time I'm not going to look down because I want to look at the crowd. Yeah. So if I step on something that is the wrong, which I've done before, and it's come out as like a fuzz wah phaser synth guitar, which really doesn't sound good. I did that at Tomcat one time, and I didn't realize, because at Tomcat you can't hear yourself. Yeah. There's no wedge right in front of the lead singer. No. So I couldn't hear that I've stepped on a wrong pedal until we got to a part where it's only me playing and it's wow, 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 and I've gone, oh, that is not correct.
Nope.
So at Black Bear you can really hear everything that's going on, whereas at some of the other ones you really have to fight to know what's going on.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I remember going to a gig on the coast. I won't say where and I won't say who, but I remember watching a band that for about the first 3 out of, let's say, 7 songs, the bass player wasn't plugged in. And he's playing along and we're watching this chord dangling out of his guitar and no bass coming out obviously whatsoever.
Did no one want to be like,
no,
hey buddy,
I think I noticed in about the first minute, and I just
bass
thought it was
is a pretty
so funny.
big instrument. You can't miss that.
No, exactly. And obviously, I mean, they were a young band, so I would have said it was probably not even the 10th time they'd played live, somewhere in the first 10. And it was just interesting when he realised eventually that he wasn't plugged in. He just was not happy. He was very embarrassed, shocked. But again, like the sound, they had no foldback. They had no monitors whatsoever. So
Damn.
It was just basically plug in a couple of mics out to the front of house, and that was it. So, I mean, sound in every venue is a big thing. And I mean, we're pretty lucky in Queensland. I know most venues are pretty good.
Yeah, but they at least have fallback.
And then, exactly. And then when, you know, you get ones like the Black Bear, as you said, they've stepped it up. They've got the expensive gear. They've put the money in. They've put the time. They've got a good sound.
It's basically an investment, because a lot of live bands play there regardless of how big they are.
Yeah.
Like another venue that's pretty good to play at is the Bright Side.
Yeah.
And it's not a giant venue, but a lot of big bands play there. Like I know one of the more prominent ones that I saw a couple of years ago was Pup played there. They're a Canadian, like, not rock, but they're a little bit of a weird genre. I'm not sure what they're like, like Sad Boy.
Sad Boy.
But yeah, no, they played there with Bugs a couple of years ago, and it was an awesome gig. Like, people were stage diving and just like jumping off everything. It was crazy. Yep. But not only did Pup play there, but also a lot of local bands play there as well, and it works well as a venue for everything, really.
Yeah.
Because I know that they hold the band competitions there, just to see who wins, like the Sailor Jerry Band of the Year or whatever it's called. I can't believe I forgot the name of it. But then, you know, contrasting that is Pop. Pup comes in, this huge Canadian band, plays to 1,500 people that have come to watch them play, and then, you know, the next week there's a band competition with 100 people turning up for 5 bands.
Bands you've never heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, let's get back to your new single. What is Hope all about?
So Hope is basically about wanting to live your life the way you want to. Yeah. And as musicians, I definitely feel like that is literally everyone's dream and goal, and they find a lot that it's hard to do that. Yeah. Like, you know, a square peg in a round hole, like it's not going to fit. So you want to fit in, but you also want to do your own thing, and no one really wants to accept that you want to do your own thing. And, you know, you've got this dream that people don't respect, and they're like, oh, musician, like, get a real job, or this kind of stuff, and you're like, no, like, you might like accounting, Steve, but I don't like that. So
fuck Steve.
Yeah. So, you know, I want to live my life my way. Like, I get that, you know, you have your stuff to do and everyone has their own life, but this is my life. I feel like an extra in my life. I want to be that lead character. I want to be that really hot actor that everyone loves. Like, that's the dream here. I am the lead character in my own story, instead of being in that extra that gets $50 at the end of the day. And
it's interesting you actually mentioned that quote earlier about Square trying to fit in the circle. I remember that Missy Higgins song Scar.
I love it.
She dealt with a lot of that similar sort of things. I'm not going to pretend I know her.
A triangle, exactly, trying to squeeze in a circle.
That's it. Which is exactly.
They tried to cut me so I'd fit.
And when
it's such a great song. I love Missy Higgins.
Yeah, man. And I was lucky to see her live at one point.
She played before Ed Sheeran.
Oh, wow, cool.
At Suncorp.
Yep.
A little while ago.
Yeah, I haven't seen her for a
good.
very long time. This was like when she first came out, but excellent musician. And that whole story, I mean, I'm not going to pretend I know it or know her on a personal level, but I do remember sort of there was issues with not necessarily her family, but people within her life that were, again, saying, no, this isn't a job, you can't do that. And then even within the industry, those people that want to change you into something that they want, not what you want to be. And I mean, from a producer's point of view, there's always an aspect of that. There's always a level of you're paying a producer to give you their experience and their expertise in a field, but that's more about the songs, not you as a musician, not you as an individual.
Yeah, like a lot of this... A lot of the music industry is basically like everyone wants to do it their way, and it's a very creative industry, and creatives are very like pretty set on what they like, it's their way or the hard way a lot of the time. And
very emotional people too. Anyone that's creative, I mean, you'd know, as a musician, things that make you sad, that make everyone else sad, make you that extra little bit sad. Things that make everyone else happy make you that little extra bit happy. It's just part of feeling things a little bit differently.
It's that. I think it comes down to the struggle of like if you want to make it in music, you have to fight a lot harder than a lot of other industries to make it. Like, you can study music your whole life. Like, if you're a doctor, you study being a doctor, and if you're lucky enough, you will get there. But then from there, it's just hard work to keep going up the ranks. Whereas with music, you can get to a certain point and you can never progress past that point, no matter how much you've studied or whoever you know, just because of just things. There's no real reason why you can't make it or why you haven't. Just, you will never know. You either make it or you don't.
The difference is, if you finish your study to be a doctor, you'll most likely get a job as a doctor.
It's not guaranteed, but you have a way better chance than we do of studying music and getting to be a famous musician. You study a music degree
and expect to come out the other end, Taylor Swift. It's probably not going to happen.
No one studies music expecting to be like a crazy musician. I remember someone I know went to the con for violin.
Yep.
And she was saying that she was in a class of like, I'll say 30 other like prodigy Asian students that spent 8 hours a day. Like, they didn't have jobs. They just spent 8 hours a day studying music, and they were like incredible. But at the end of the day, they're all the same. Yep. None of them are really different in any way other than who they are as people. Their musicianship is all the same. They all studied the same course. They're all prodigies. They're all just gonna they really believed that when they went to the con, they were going to become famous soloists. But, she said, at the end of the day, they're just going to really be playing in community orchestras for free. Like, there's nothing unless you, like, really get lucky and catch the eye of someone.
Well, those big orchestras, someone's basically got to die for you to get a position in it. So if you're looking for a lead violin part in the Queensland Symphony Orchestra,
the whole thing with that is, like, if you're in a rock band, you have a shelf life. When you reach 35, people are like, not really. They're all looking after that hot younger guy again once they've outgrown you. But then, like, in an orchestra, you can turn 100. If you're still good at your instrument, you're in that orchestra forever.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no shelf life on orchestras. Like, that music's awesome.
Or
and
if you're Robbie Williams and for some reason women like you and you're like bordering on 60.
Have you seen him? He looks great.
He does. All right, before we get into playing Hope, which will be coming up very shortly, we have a very special question that we ask every band that comes in for an interview. Now, it seems a little bit more relevant today considering he's not here. It's a little excerpt I like to call, Does Anybody Really Give a Fuck About the Drummer? Which is, of course, the question on all of our minds. And the question being, if Andrew wasn't towing the line, wasn't up to scratch, he wasn't keeping time and started missing beats, how long would it take you to replace him?
Honestly, he's a lovely dude, but it's a business at the end of the day. Like, if the rest of you are pulling your weight and suddenly someone's not, like, not even just Andrew, if someone's not pulling their weight, like, you got to either speak to them, and if
like
it doesn't...
Harry, who didn't show up to an interview, like...
If it doesn't get fixed after you've had the chat to them, it's okay to give them a second warning. If it doesn't happen, you got to let them go. And, like, I love Andy to death. Like, he's the loveliest guy ever. Like, last night, he studied theater, so he's a super, like, eccentric person, and he knows a lot about, feelings and, like, really conflict resolution. He has helped a lot in a lot of things. And, last night, I don't know, we finished playing at like 8:30 last night at Black Bear. But then, we spent the next like 6 hours until 1 a.m. just chatting with mates about, what's going on in our lives and, like, breakups and being rejected and all that kind of stuff, and, like, oh, how are you feeling, like, you need to do this and all that different kind of stuff. Like, he's the loveliest dude. He just, like, really cares about everyone that he speaks to. So, as much as it would be super hard to, push him to the side if he wasn't doing his job, he's still, like, one of my best mates. He's a lovely person.
So keep him on it as a friend.
Yeah.
We'll keep
we can still be friends. I'll friend zone him.
Exactly. I mean, he might not want to be friends after, but he sounds like the kind of guy.
He sounds like a lovely guy. He can really tell if he's not pulling his weight.
Yeah.
Like, he so far has pulled all of his weight. Like, it's one of those things, like, he knows if something's going wrong, and he will try his hardest to fix it.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming down to the studio. We really appreciate your time and effort, Dylan, and making the drive down to the Gold Coast.
Oh, not a problem.
Just come and have a chat with us. Lastly, for those who haven't heard your music and generally don't know who or what the fuck KB Theory is, of course now they do, the Kevin Bacon Theory, is where can they find you on the old interwebs?
Well, funny you ask, you can find us everywhere. So we got Deezer, we got Spotify, we got Apple iTunes. We're on pretty much everything. Give us a listen. We're probably on SoundCloud somewhere. Just stream our song. We're on Triple J on Earth. If you want to help us out, go there and just constantly stream our song, write a review, all that kind of stuff. Does help us out a lot, and you'll love the songs. Like, listen to them and you will enjoy them. So you can find us pretty much everywhere on the internet. Facebook, we got all the details there, so KB Theory Band, just look it up.
And of course we'll share them on our Facebook page again in August. Well, thanks again, guys, and here's KB's latest single, Hope, brought to you by Regular Radio.
I'm Dylan from KB Theory. Thank you for listening to Regular Radio.
era in my own life. Dropped in a story I didn't even write. So let's change up the story, 'cause this one's a little boring. I'm sick of being the underdog. Let's stand on each other's shoulders. Let's fake like we're that little bit older. The good times don't have to stop right now. We can just act like we own this town. And you can say it's okay, you can say it's alright, but the writers of the screenplay don't want us hanging out tonight. The clock is ticking, and we're running out of time. So just take my hand, come with me and you'll be fine. Let's stand on each other's shoulders. Let's fake like we're that little bit older. The good times don't have to stop right now. We can just act like we own this town. Sick of my plot, I hate my scene. Instead of living in the background, I wanna live out my dream. Let's stand on each other's shoulders. Let's fake like we're that little bit older. The good times don't have to stop right now. We can just act like we own this town. Let's stand on